Hello everybody, we welcome you to a very interesting discussion today. It is one of my favorite subjects because I have always been interested in constitutional law. So this is about a book that's coming out shortly. That book is named Discovery and Bharat. This has been authored by Sri Dr. M R Venkatesh, who is a very eminent lawyer and who also happens to be my counsel in some of my cases, and who's had a lot of good cases, credible cases to his profile, most importantly the Tirupurangundram case as well. Now let's get to the book and let's invite him to our studio. Hello and welcome, sir.
Namaste.
So what really got you, let me get straight away into the topic, what really got you interested on getting into this book, sir?
See, it is always the dream of every lawyer to go to the mother of all laws, the constitutional law. We may be practicing on the corporate law or the civil procedure code, CRPC, IPC, name it. There's always an urge to go through the constitution and along with it the Constituent Assembly debates that made the constitution. But if you look at it, while this urge is there amongst every lawyer, the trigger point or the flash point which made me go into this book was probably twofold events. One was the Sabarimala event. The Sabarimala judgment, I thought, was a given in the favor of Hindus, the majority Hindus who were the devotees of Sri Ayyappa. And I thought there was nothing to debate about it, and this is an age-old civilization practice.
To do with tradition and
tradition and practice, and which gets automatically the protection of 25 and 26, Article 25 and 26. But much to my chagrin, that did not happen. And while this was something that was at my base of my heart and weighing very heavily, Ratan Sarda, one of my very good friends and a very popular figure in the English TV channels, commenting upon my previous book, said, your book has not gone to the logical conclusion where it should go.
It is not delved into.
So both these
details
were triggers, and I was deeply contemplating as to what I should do in terms of not allowing the writer in me rest in peace. So both these things kindled, and here I have Discovery and Bharat, Christian Constitution.
The name, let's get to the name of it, sir. Discovery and Bharat. This is so similar to Discovery of India, isn't it? So has it got any connection with that? Because yes, you are, when I went through the book, you did mention, and in fact you start with Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru.
Yeah. There is, the only connection is Nehru happened to give the Trust of Destiny speech on 15th of August. I am making it very clear there is no connection between Discovery of India and Discovery of Bharat, except that when you write about the constitution, you would necessarily refer to Nehru as you would refer to Ambedkar, Patel, or to any other stalwarts who went on to make our constitution. So in that context, with the utmost reverence and utmost respect, I will refer to Nehru. So the title, though may be similar, bears no connection to Discovery of India.
Yeah, yes. In my conversations with you, you had in fact mentioned that discovery, that very term has a lot of meaning, inner meaning.
Yes.
In the sense, Vasco da Gama or Columbus, their coining of this term, discovery.
It arises basically from a papal order given in the 15th century, more particularly probably in the year 1493 or 94, to discover new lands which are heathen lands and convert them into Christendom. This is the word, or more or less I'm using this, I may not be using the same words, but I'm explaining the concept. So discovery is not trying to discover something which is there and remove the bedsheet and discover something, It has got profound theological.
Absolutely, yes.
So it is not to be dismissed as some sort of an English word with some.
In fact,
it's a verb.
It made me think
Yeah.
And when you mentioned up until that, I did not have that particular thought process. But then, after you mentioned it to me, I did make my own search on it, and I understood that it has
its own theological connotation.
Theological and political connotation.
So the theological, imperial, political connotation. So that is how the whole Portuguese and the Spanish invade Latin America and go in search of India and end up in America. Then they come to India in search of India. All these are basically discoveries.
Absolutely.
And this discovery has absolute, it's rooted to Christian faith and theology. Now, I am not here to say it is good, bad or ugly. I am here to point out this is what it is.
No, but even otherwise, since you mentioned Portuguese, caste per se is a Portuguese term.
Yes.
It comes from custos.
Yes.
Portuguese term.
But it has been labelled as something Indian and it has given a pejorative overtones.
Absolutely. So, and why? Because we are speaking today, in fact, a lot of discussions going on about reservation and the way the reservation mechanism has gone about. So, therefore, discovery, the arrival of the Portuguese here, and their definition and their understanding and their interpretation of the Jati system that was prevailing in this land, and
how it has been corrupted.
Yes, and how it is carried on and how the constitution has interpreted it.
Yes.
So, all this has a bearing.
Yes. So, those who forget history are condemned to repeat it. First time as a fast, second time as a transitive. So, it repeats itself.
But you've coined a new term, which is, of course, Sanskritized term, should I say, which is Paraskevide Kshatriya phobia.
No. It is nothing to do with Sanskrit.
You've
given
a Sanskrit touch to that.
It is inadvertent. I didn't realize it has got a Sanskrit touch to it. Paraskevide Kshatriya is the fear of Friday the 13th.
Okay.
Paraskevide Kshatriya is the fear of. So that why we fear Friday the 13th. Why the Indians fear Friday the 13th. Of course, Friday the 13th has got its own theological connotations. And how Christ had his last, he was crucified on a Friday. Although 13 people were there in the Last Supper. Nehru brings in the aims and objectives resolution on Friday the 13th December 1946. So, my reference is only to that extent that it sounds so Dan Brownish.
Okay.
That here you have Christ having dinner with 13 people, and 13 is considered unlucky by the Christians for these reasons. Whereas Nehru brings in the aims and objectives resolution, and if you see the aims and objective resolution, two important things are to be drawn. He misses the word democracy.
Okay.
Which subsequently Ambedkar brings in year 1948, which again I have drawn references as to how Nehru missed it in its original drafting. We never said we'll become a democratic republic. So we wanted to have a republic, we wanted to have this
sovereign republic. In fact, he says on 13th of December 1946, as you rightly pointed out, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, who is the chairman of the Constituent Assembly, he invites Jawaharlal Nehru to heed the interim government, who is heading the interim government, to move the resolution. And the resolution, aims at aims and objects of the assembly.
8 objects they move.
Yes, and but interestingly, you will find that there were no representatives of the princely states were present.
Yes, because at that time,
and the Muslim League was not present.
Muslim League was not there,
and none of the representatives of the
princely states were not there. And more importantly, this question is raised by several people as to how around
legitimacy.
What is the legitimacy of this Constituent Assembly? This is not raised by me. Please understand, this book in a way is not an original work. This digs out questions raised contemporaneously even within the Constituent Assembly as to how 299 people of which only 284 or so thereof have signed, of which 10 or 15 have only spoken elaborately. This will be Ambedkar, Nehru, Patel, Maulana Azad, Deshmukh, Kamath. You can count it by your fingers, 10, 12 people.
And these people were, they were subject to, I mean, they were said to have been elected. And who was elected at 8%?
It is in the 1946 elections.
Yeah, 8% of them voted?
Maybe 15% of the then population of 33 crores would have voted. And they all were communally, the voting was on communal lines. So yes, Hindus voted for Hindus and Christians voted for Christians.
I still remember Muslim League. The 1946 election, Madras presidency, I think there were 28 seats. All of them went to the Muslim League, and Muslim League went on the electoral plank of partition and Pakistan.
So, but it was a communal electorate, a communal election, which decided the secular India, ironically. So you must see, so these are all important things we must understand. I'm sure since you have read the book thoroughly and you have made so much of notes, you will bear it out that at no point of time I have been disrespectful of the efforts.
Absolutely, yes.
Made by the Constituent.
In fact, you start off by giving credit to Nehru.
I give credit to Nehru. I give credit because to me, in the contemporary political milieu, congressmen somehow seem to have appropriated Nehru, and BJP and the right wingers seem to have appropriated Patel. We have forgotten people like Rajaji, we have forgotten people like Rajendra Prasad, Ambedkar, and others who have made enormous contribution towards the building of the contribution.
In fact, with due respect to people like Patel, I have my own reservations when it comes to the way he handled the the Nizam state crisis, where he waited for almost a year to take action. And it was only after the communists were gaining an upper hand against the Rasakars, it was like the people were turning towards the communists. Yes. They entered and they sent the army in.
But Kishore, let me put it very bluntly. We can, after 75 years, when we are a $4 trillion economy, in the school confines of an AC chamber, we can have an analysis of history and we can be critical. But we must be ensuring that we should not criticize.
I understand.
I have been very, very steadfast in this view that this book shall be critical at best and we will not criticize. So, and more importantly, Galvin Austin uses a phrase which I have refused to use in my book. He says Patel, Nehru, Azad, Rajaji and all, Ambedkar all were a cabal. Now I don't think so they were a cabal. They may be guilty of manufacturing a consensus, but they genuinely tried to ensure that there was a meeting of minds.
I understand.
And you have to understand at this point in time, today, we don't have such stalwarts who will give and take. Absolutely. With amount of sagacity that these people, great people, have shown. My only angst is that, like everything, like my grandfather built a palace, and that palace over a period of time through the facing the weather and the storm and the tsunami and whatnot has become old. Now it is time to see what best can be salvaged and what best can be made.
Absolutely, sir. In this, in fact, I was just, while you were conversing with me, I was just going into the phone because I had tweeted. This was when I was in the prison. I chanced upon this old library there where these Federalist papers.
James Adams and
yes,
Madison.
John Adams,
Madison. And
James Madison and Jefferson. In that, Jefferson says, the Constitution matters, but it is not a secret relic. He says that it was never the purpose of the Constitution.
Exactly.
Our ancestors had the wisdom of their period.
Correct.
They were not omniscient. Nobody can be. Their wisdom was appreciable, but without the experience of the present. Our experience of administration over 75 years, which I am connecting to India, our experience of administration over 75 years is worth 200 years of book reading. Laws and institutions must go hand in hand with the progress of the mind. which becomes more developed, more enlightened as new discoveries are made. New truths disclosed and manners and opinions change with change of circumstances. Institutions and most importantly the Constitution must keep pace with that.
Exactly.
That is why we speak of the basic structure of the Constitution not being touched by welcoming amendments. Again, this is a revelation I got from you when you asked me, tell me which country has a basic structure of the Constitution. So that itself is debatable. So Constitution is not a structure to be worshipped.
Worship. It is a contract of its own citizens. Like all contracts, it is amenable to change.
Absolutely.
And in fact, James Adams, whom I have quoted, John Adams, I have quoted in my book, says that the living should not govern a dead should not govern the living.
Absolutely.
Because he says and he says in his letter to, I think it was to Madison, where he says that look, no constitution will survive for more than 19 years. And he does a actuarial study and comes out with this number of 19 years. Now, 220 years later, some American university, I think it was Cambridge, which has done a study of what is called as endurance project. They come with a finding that world over, constitutions survive for 19 years. Now, so look at the sagacity of the man, 220, 30 years back, makes this comment that look, a constitution will not survive for more than 19 years. And if it survives for 19 years, so far so good. In fact, probably one of the errors of the Constituent Assembly was that they should have said inbuilt mechanism for with a self-destruct program. They should say that this constitution would be alive till say 1987, and by 1984 mandatorily this constitution should be rewritten, and first 40 years you could have given, then after which they should have said every 33 years you should have a constitution.
But my question, sir, is why do you have lesser amendments to the Constitution of the United States? If it was so that the ancestors or the fathers of the Constitution, if they had thought that it will only survive for 19 years, why do we have very less amendments to the Constitution? But when compared to the Indian Constitution, which has more.
See, the problem is American Constitution is 8,000 odd words. We have got around 160,000 words.
Absolutely.
And the more you write, the more amendments, and it has become a political playbook rather than a serious book of governance. So the difference between American Constitution and our Constitution, the way politicians, the way say courts look at it, or the common man look at it, is that Constitution is a playbook, a political playbook, rather than a legal contractual book between the citizenry and the state. So when you write it in pithy words, and when you give that amount of sacrosanct respect to that particular document, obviously 8,000 words will have very less of, I think 14 amendments or something like that Americans are having. Whereas we are having 130 odd, and we continue to have, and we will continue to have furthermore, because large part of administration is packaged as constitution. Now, nowhere in the world, I have tried to see, but I am not able to get it, the salaries of judges, how judges will be appointed, what is their election commissioner, election commission, all these things get packaged within the constitution. These all should be left to the enactments and be moved away from the constitution. So you see, there is nothing wrong in saying election commissioner is a statutory body. But no, here we want to say statutory body nahi hai, ye to constitutional body hai.
Yeah.
So we want to elevate
the election commission comes under the Parliament Act.
So you have an election commission act, you have an administrative law, you have the constitution. Election commission need not be in the constitution. There can be an administrative mechanism of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha. All these things can be there with the respective enactments, president, army, whatever it is. Like the army act, let there be a president act. Let there be a vice president act. Let there be something on state, interstate, how do we deal with it? Now, these are issues which are best left for the future parliamentary constitution assembly to debate. But my case is, this constitution has probably run its full shelf life, borrowed as it were from Western nations, with very little of understanding of Indian systems, I think time has come to say this constitution requires a revisit, then probably a rethink, and probably if that rethink survives, then a rewrite.
Incidentally, I was actually going through one of your speeches while I was traveling from Amatoor, where I saw you coming out and saying that the very Article 1 of the Constitution, that's where it starts, where it says India, that is Bharat, that itself is the start of all the confusion, because it is either India or Bharat. You can't have two versions of it. So, what is your thought process? Have you dwelt on that in the book?
Yes, very heavily I have dwelt on it. In fact, when Ambedkar suggests that India, that is Bharat, will be the phraseology that will be embedded in Article 1. I don't remember the name of that Muslim gentleman, but there was one Muslim gentleman who rises and virtually lampoons Ambedkar and says either it is India or Bharat, and this country is known as Bharat for time immemorial, and you better name it as Bharat rather than India. But I have never seen any other constitution which says X, that is Y, will be this name of this country. United States of America, United States of America, Britain, Britain, France, France, Ireland, Ireland. Nobody says that I am India, that is Bharat. Okay, this is a very peculiar thing, and for ages, if you go to any temple, let us assume we have a time machine and we fly back 3000 years ago, go to Rameshwaram temple, the sankalpa would be Bharata Varsha Bharadakande Meroho Dakshine Parte Sahapte Vartamanike Vyavaharike. There is no other way they would have said Chola Rajye, Pallava Rajye, Kanishka Rajye, Gupta Rajye, Harshavardhana Rajye, even Rama Rajye. Nowhere they would have taken a sankalpa 3000 years back drawing to a political reference. It was proof of our secularism, if at all you required one. And if you had gone to Kedarnath at the same time, they would have taken the same sankalpa of the same latitude, longitude of Kedarnath. Nowhere would have they said something about that particular king in Kashmir or that particular. Yeah. So this itself shows.
It's a cultural construct.
It's not only a cultural construct, it was a construct, and it was named as a unified political entity as Bharat, geographical entity, if not political entity. The political entity were subdivisions. That there could be a Kanishka Rajya here, or a Harshavardhana Rajya there, or a Gupta Rajya there, or a Chola Rajya here. All was aggregated and called Bharat. So, Bharat should have been the name of this country, and today Chinese scholars are commenting positively about the rise of Bharat rather than India. And on a lighter note or on a negative note, the people who gathered in JNU, they never said India tere tukde honge, inshallah, inshallah. They only said Bharat tere tukde honge, inshallah, inshallah. So the opponents of India know for a fact that India is a very small, superficial construct. But
political construct.
It's basically a political construct, and it is a superficial one. But the core of it is Bharat, which encompasses several people of several creed, community, religion, beliefs, and they constitute what is Bharat. And that Bharat is what they want to knock off. So our opponents know us far more than what we know about ourselves.
I understand. No, but you also say the concept of nation states.
Yeah.
That the aspirations of the people that constitute a nation are best served by a common political entity. Now, this common political entity, as envisaged, I think again another 13th, but this is 13th of June 1947, Nehru, during the discussion of the cabinet mission, he argues with Caulfield that the very state in India, every state in India were not sovereign states. So a state department was formed by both Pakistan and India at that time, the advice of the cabinet mission, which was when we had Vappala Panguni Menon, VP Menon. He was appointed as secretary of that department. Menon was actually a school dropout who got into this, and he played a very crucial role in the unification, or which is what they say. But my question is, Nehru is always clear that it's a sovereign, India is a sovereign republic. Of course, he doesn't speak about democracy, but he says a sovereign republic. Now, my contention is, when it comes to the states and the relationship, the center-state relationship, there is always a discussion. Unfortunately, the great-grandson of Nehru comes out in the parliament and says, India is a union of states. States came together and formed India, which is not true. In fact, Ambedkar negates him. In his opening statement, he negates him and says, when we say it's a union, it talks about India being an indestructible union of destructible states. So, have you spoken about that in your book?
Yes, I have dealt with in, I think it was March 23, that the infamous speech of Rahul Gandhi in Cambridge University, where he makes this statement that India...
He also makes a statement in the parliament. Unfortunate that he was not corrected.
It was never corrected, and to be fair, BJP revels only in his tomfoolery politically, and these are all serious issues which need serious scholarly answers. Like you have very rightly said about what Ambedkar has commented about the Union of States. When we say the states, the union has, the states have dissolved into the union, and the union only exists.
Absolutely.
And it is no longer feasible that you can chisel out a state from the union. It has become a soup. It is no longer a salad. To use a very strong metaphor, you use all the vegetables and create a soup, and the soup is one indestructible union, and that is what India is. Now, I don't know why there seems to be some sense of casualness about the territorial integrity of India by the opposition leader of the opposition, Rahul Gandhi.
And very unfortunate.
Very unfortunate that you deal with these type of issues in a very lackadaisical manner. And there is freedom of speech, no doubt, in this country, but it cannot be extended that you bring harm to the territorial unity and integrity of the nation, because we have fissiparous tendencies, we have very hostile neighbors all across. We are probably the only nation which is surrounded by hostile countries all across 360 degrees. We are surrounded by hostile nations. So we have to be careful. And if leaders of the opposition are not careful, I think it is not a good sign and a good political positioning by the political party. I hope reasoning will dawn on them and they will course correct sooner than later.
This has to be clarified because there's an increasing tendency amongst the polity, to come out with this discussion that, or to come out with this argument that all states came and formed the nation. No, it was not so. It was a completely different process that went about in the formation or in the declaration. I don't know if I can use the word formation, in the declaration of India. Yes, there were certain important states like the state of Travancore or Mysore or Kashmir or Junagadh or the Nizam state. These are some of the main states, or what is now Bhopal. So these were princely states, bigger princely states who had issues and the accession was required. But as regards to the others, like the Madras presidency, the Bombay presidency, or the Bengal or the central, presidencies, these were not in question at all. They were sovereign, country or sovereign dominion, or however you like to call it. So that needs to be clarified. So my, the real expectation when I opened the book was whether you have dwelt into it. I would rather that you speak about it.
I dealt it from a different angle. See, the issue is, how did we arrive at federalism? How did we arrive at Schedule 7, Part A, Part B, Part C? And basically, one of the suggestions that came from the Cripps mission was that there will be 3 types of states, A, B, C.
Yes.
and A was probably
Which is-
Article 370 extended to the whole of Muslim dominions or areas where Muslims were majority. Then there was British India, which there will be a portion where we will have something around what may be, I do not know exact percentage, but there could be a good percentage of India today, which would have been the British India. And then there were 560 odd princely states. So India would be governed by, the British India would be governed by B, and C would be governed by C type of rules and regulations. So a country would have three type of rules. A would be a constitution for Muslim dominated, B would be for British dominated, and C would be for princely states. Now A luckily got away because we didn't have to do much with it because of partition. So one of the upsides of partition was we didn't have to break our heads about the constitution, about being different for the Pakistani majority places. So we had only to do with what was supposed to be Indian. And of that, we had no problems with any of the princely states also, because of what I just told you. They all believed in Bharatavarshe Bharatkhandi.
Absolutely.
So whether it was Bengal, whether it was Bhopal or any other place, did not have problems except three. One was of course Hyderabad, which you alluded. One was Junagadh, and one was Kashmir. Junagadh and Hyderabad were taken to task by Patel over a period of time. You have a difference of opinion about the timing, so be it. But he did take care of it, and the problem is settled. But the only problem that was left festering was Kashmir, where that part A remnant was extended to this particular state. And today we are on August 5. We are on August 5 today?
4.
So tomorrow is the day on which probably 370 was neutralized in the parliament. So I am very, very sanguine about this, that the framers have done an extraordinary job in terms of seeing to that we get at least to B and very easily to part C, the uniform constitution. Otherwise, look at it. If you travel every 100 kilometers, your constitution would be changing from B to C and C to A. That was a nightmare. But British wanted to leave a nightmare behind. To the sagacity of this great set of people, we got a very unified, solid block. Of course, I still believe. Now, this is where I make a quantum jump in where we have to go. The word federalism is missing in the constitution. Now, states have a right, but they don't have a sovereign right. Please let us understand. They have only a constitutional right, they have a statutory right. They don't have a sovereign right. A state is not a sovereign.
I understand.
A state has got certain right to say collect taxes, but that taxes is subject to the overarching constitutional principle and to the fact that it is a state, that's all. It is not that it can do whatever it wants as a sovereign state would do, like say Bangladesh would do or Philippines would do. Now, having said this, federalism has masqueraded as secessionism light in this country.
Absolutely.
Now, no other country has this type of a very loose federalistic arrangement which borders on secessionism and brings threat to the unity and integrity of the country. And at the same time, I am with the states wherever the states' rights in terms of revenue sharing is being missed, as per the written constitution. So we need to visitation on these two parts. Probably one way forward is there is a third tier of the constitution, which is the panchayat and the what we call the gram panchayats. That must be made to be the third layer. So just like Chennai says, I don't get money from Delhi, and yes, a place like say Ulundurpettai must stand up and say that I also require money from Chennai, and I must, for my panchayat thing, and the GST of 18% must be divided as 8% for the center, 8% for the state, and 2% for the panchayats. So you empower panchayats with taxes, at least the devolution part of it, if not to raise part of it. Of course, they can raise their own fees and revenue, ground rent and other things. Think about it and empower panchayats so that the burden of the state government also reduces. So this requires two more schedules in the constitution. Part C we know Part A, Part B, Part C in the 7th schedule. We have Part D and Part E. Part ED will be the list for the panchayats, and Part E will be the concurrence list between the state and the panchayat.
Yeah, but hasn't the state been defined, like in Article 12 of the Constitution?
Yes, that is the government. That state means the government.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean whether it is the state government, central government, and it includes over a period of time. ONGC is a state.
Yes.
BCCI is a state.
Exactly.
So you have all sorts of states.
I read about this in Arun Shoury's
Exactly.
book, Courts and Judgments.
Exactly.
Where he mentions about it, and he also takes the example of the ONGC case.
Exactly.
It says that if you are going to define a state, then every house that is getting a benefit from the state is also a state.
Yeah. So we have diluted this position of state because the courts have said what is a state. But the larger issue is, when you wanted to create a state, which is the republic, we'd have no clear idea as to what a state should do, and importantly, what a state should not do. Now your cow doesn't get pregnant. You raise your voice, the government immediately says, we will have a program for impregnating your cow. Now, how is it feasible? Why should a government enter into an area where it has no business to enter, no business to do a program? It may suit you to get your cow getting pregnant from some source because the government helps you. But is this the role of the government? Now, we didn't have this discussion in the Constituent Assembly. I'm sorry, this is the crucial part where we missed. We wanted to have a state, and we empowered the state to do every damn thing under the sun. We should have a residual state. A state which does only this much and no more. So the Constitution by definition must restrict a state, must restrict its spending on itself, on its administration, to not more than say 10%. And leave 90%, of which 50% must be for capital expenditure, 40% for other revenue expenditures, and 10% for administration. Today what happens, almost 25% is for administration, 25% is for your interest. I'm talking about the central budget, and leaves very little for your capital expenditure. Capital expenditure is basically cooked up figures. So we are basically hallucinating about certain things without understanding the consequences. And Palkiwala used to say that Article 292 must be read it in full force, where the government must be stopped from borrowing beyond a point. Now you have this FRBM Act. It has been consistently, governments have been consistently being in breach because it is only a statutory law. Whereas you elevate this into the constitutional law. Now this is where I think the Constitution requires all these type of
checks and balances.
And mostly on secular side. I am not asking on certain other side, but secular side, you start saying that the government shall not borrow beyond a point.
And talking about, since you mentioned about secular, let's come to the most important article, which questions the secular nature of the Constitution, which is Article 29 and 30. So 29 and 30 essentially, or it just means to say that if you are a minority, then you have special rights. At least that's
cultural, educational,
yes, cultural, linguistic. How is it that it is borrowed? Though you have the TMA by this is state of Karnataka, or the Muslim organization versus state of Karnataka, or Inamdar versus state of Maharashtra. These three
Durga Committee.
We have these three important Supreme Court verdicts. But still, today, if you see, if you are a Muslim or a Christian, you start an organization, which is an engineering college. A Muslim or a Christian starting an engineering college is not completely governed by the state. Whereas if a Hindu starts an engineering college, he is completely governed by the state. So this kind of a disparity.
I have dealt extensively on the Ramakrishna Math. In the 70s, because of some grant given to Ramakrishna Math, the West Bengal government under the communists in the 80s wanted to interfere in their administration. So Ramakrishna Math with its founder Ramakrishna Paramahansa and its greatest devotee being Swami Vivekananda, had to say that we are not Hindus and we are Ramakrishnites, and it has probably references to Hinduism, but we are not Hindus in the true sense.
I think Jaki Vasudeva has also borrowed.
Everybody has to take this view because of the coercive nature of Article 24 onwards to 30. You talked about 2 articles. But my view is the review in Shabarimala, which has been heard by the 9-member bench only to May, the orders are reserved. I think we will have a lot of clarity on these subjects. The way the hearing has gone and the way it has been argued by various lawyers before the Honorable Supreme Court 9 bench, I am sanguine about one fact, that we have had lot of difficulties in say understanding 25, 26 to 30. Now let me give you one example on which you drew reference to secularism and you drew reference to the word denomination also in 26. Now the word denomination arises, and I have dealt extensively there in my book, as to how it arises from the medieval Christendom in probably Germany and other places. It is Christianity where the majority is Catholic and minority denominations like Protestant or others, Anabaptists, are given certain rights. So the minority is not of other religion, the minority is of the same religion called denomination. Now it is like rupee is a religion. 100 rupees, 500 rupees, 20 rupees, 10 rupees are all denominations. But it is of the rupee. You don't say 10 rupee is majority rupee and $1 is minority. The minority does not come between dollar and rupee. It comes between rupee and rupee.
I understand.
Okay. Now the word denomination in Hindi, which is adopted in 1987, 40 years later as the authentic text, says Harek Dharmik Sampradaya. Now denomination becomes Sampradaya. And being a Tamil, you will say, if it is translated into Tamil, it will be Parambarai. Parambaryam or Parambarai. So denomination becomes Parampara or Parambaryam in Tamil, or as I said, whatever it is in Hindi. Retranslated, it only means traditions, not denominations.
I understand.
Likewise, secularism translated into Hindi means Dharma Nirpeksh. Actually, it should have been Pantha Nirpeksh. You can be Pantha Nirpeksh. How can you be Dharma Nirpeksh? Dharma Nirpeksh means the order. You may say it is a divine order, I may say it is not a divine order. But then there is a sacredness associated with the order which is embedded in every religion. A Sikh has a dharma, a Christian has a dharma, a Muslim has a dharma, a Hindu has a dharma. That the inter se rituals and other things may be different, but there is an embedded dharma which may not meet at all. But how can a government say, I will not have anything to do with dharma? It can say, I cannot have anything to do with religion.
Correct.
That is okay. So the Hindi translation also gives scope for a lot of confusion. So I hope the Supreme Court 9-judge bench also reconciles these type of things and leaves much less scope for rewriting the constitution. Otherwise, we have to revisit and rewrite.
But you have dealt all of this in this book?
Most of this.
Excellent.
See, in a book, we also have a limitation of words. And
yes. In fact, the biggest problem I had when I went through your book, is which I have when I go through any of these books or any of the books that I read, is that one page I read, then I immediately go into some other subject because you would have mentioned about that subject, and then I go there and then there is no end to it.
Yes, and we have to conclude at some place and write a book and be very specific, pointed, and it cannot be written like a treatise of 10 volumes or 20 volumes. And if I write 10, 20 volumes, another 200 can be written.
I understand.
So we have to stop somewhere.
You have the constraint that you have to limit yourself.
This itself is, the publisher was very, very anxious that I should not cost 200,000 words, because today the audience to read 200,000 words is very, very less, and they find it very difficult to read 200,000. And this is not an ordinary subject. This is a subject that is tantalizing, and we have to go on tantalizing the reader to go to the next page.
I understand.
Even for a page, if there is going to be a boredom that creeps in, then the readability goes down, and people will then say that I will read it next Diwali.
In fact, I would like to conclude by citing a particular information that you had mentioned, which is that it is wrong, even if Nehru had cited it or anybody else had cited it, that India was new to democracy. Democracy was an inbuilt feature of this land, as in you cited how the people who were visited from north, when they were questioned about from which place they are coming from, they said we have so many republics in the north, and we have so many kingdoms as well. And likewise, we had during the Chola period, the Uttaramerur inscription, which shows that there was democracy in play. This is a very, very valid point, that we did not learn democracy from the Greeks or from the West, though we have the Westphalian treaty, which needs to put us into a political construct that we are in today as a nation state, or whatever. But we did have democracy as a salient feature, and so why that was not incorporated, or did we incorporate it? Because I did, when I went and did some research on Ambedkar, how he went about the constitution, he does say that he did go with some of the Buddhist scriptures. He sat with a Buddhist scholar, a Buddhist monk, the name of Hamalava Sadasiva, that was his name, from a Sinhalese Buddhist monk. He says, I did sit with him, and that monk also clarifies. He was later one of the trustees post Ambedkar's death. He was one of the trustees of the Ambedkar Foundation. So, did the Constitution work on those basics?
See, as I said, by and large, in chapter 4, you would find, beginning chapter 5 of our Constitution, it has been basically a cut-paste copy job of the Government of India Act 1935. In fact, the title chapter 4 is titled Cut, Copy, Paste. Very provocative type, but it has been so, because we have taken everything from the 1935 Act insofar as administration is concerned. Insofar as esoteric terms like fundamental rights or your directive principles and other things, we have copied by and large from 6 constitutions. It's America, France, it's UK, it's Ireland, it's to some extent Germany and Japan.
In fact, I was watching some video of Rohinton Nariman, where he was talking about, we had picked up some points from the Japanese constitution.
Japanese constitution also.
The fact is, Japanese constitution itself was handed over by the Americans.
By the Americans. The Americans wrote Article 21 especially, which I
think MacArthur?
Maybe. But it was basically after the World War II, when Japan had surrendered.
Yes.
So the constitution post-war was created with Americans for the Japanese, and we took Article 21 from the Japanese. So my reading of the situation is that I have no problems with taking from any constitution. But what the Constituent Assembly missed was, as you said, look back and say how Thiruvananthapuram was regimenting itself, or Mysore Maharaja was conducting, or say Uttaramerur, some 1,200 years was conducting.
The Marathas.
Marathas, they had a Vijayanagara Empire. Now, all these things could have been probably debated. And after debate, they could have come to a conclusion, Ireland constitution is far better for India. They could have said British constitution is the best. They could have done a comparative study, and I would say that type of study has not happened in India for the last 75 years.
I understand.
In fact, if you read the Mexican constitution and many of the Latin American constitution, which I have...
Wasn't the Mexican constitution have anything, something to do with M.
Maybe, I am not very sure, could be. See, how people have used and how we can't pinpoint everything to everything. So I will be on my book, so what I know I will tell you. So several constitutions in Latin America have been focusing on the word idea of duties. Now the word duty is missing in our constitution except for Article 51 capital A, where it is an ornamental piece where it cannot be subject to any legislative force.
We are more insisting on rights than on duties.
And 1947, Mahatma Gandhi no less writes to Julian Huxley and says, I don't believe in this idea of rights. And his view about the constitution, which was given in the first draft around middle of or later half of 47, he was not very happy about it, and we all know he got assassinated by end of January 48. So not much of views about Gandhi is available on the constitution. But there is a gentleman by name Agarwal. He has written a book titled Gandhi and Constitution, and to which Gandhiji has written a foreword. And I have quoted extensively from him. So from that book in chapter 10. So you are asking me why I have not produced a solution. See, the solution is more native. Solution, if you have to go back, invariably your solution to your civilizational past will have to pass through the Gandhian door. You cannot avoid Gandhi, at least in so far as being contemporary as far as civilization concerned. Contemporaneous civilizational past requires you to pass through the Gandhian door. So having said this, we may perhaps require somebody who collects this type of information, how Travancore was administering itself, how Mysore was administering, how Junagadh was doing, how Hyderabad was doing, as you said, how Marathas, all these things. And then what do you mean by village republic? And Ambedkar foo-foos that idea about a village republic. He says they are all den of ignorance, and I don't want to deal much with that. To which there has been an uproar contemporaneously from the Constituent Assembly how Ambedkar was wrong in treating the village republics as what they were, and how Mahatma Gandhi saw village as village republics. So this clash of ideas are very, very eminent during the building of the Constitution. And we must respect that view. It is not Ambedkar is greater than Gandhi or Gandhi's ideas are greater than Ambedkar. We need to say how we harmonize, synthesize, and probably craft a constitution using all these ideas and then move forward. So it is not, unfortunately, in the current political system, if you are following Ambedkar, it immediately means you are jettisoning Gandhi. If you are agreeing to Gandhi, you are jettisoning Patel. No, this is not an ideal situation to sit across. And somebody asked me a very valid question to which I don't have an answer. Said, name 10 people who can sit across on a table and without rancor and freely and without any ideological bias write a constitution today. Unfortunately, there is no 10 scholars available in this country who can sit down without ideological bias. So my book, I was finding it difficult to drive myself off.
Yeah, but wasn't Ambedkar and Gandhi having ideological bias?
No, they didn't have, but they had clash of views. There are two things. Ideological bias is one thing, and to have clash of views is another thing. For example, I am a stern believer that a country must have a presidential form of government. Now you can say, no, I don't agree with it. This has nothing to do with our ideological bias. You may honestly think the existing parliamentary system is the best. I may think the presidential form. Now doesn't mean we have an ideological bias, but if you start saying that a particular minority has to be treated this way, and this country has to be secular, and this is how judiciary has to run.
In fact, you said that Nehru, you mentioned in the book that Nehru is bulldozing the thought process.
Because
speaking on behalf of the nation when he shouldn't be doing that.
I wouldn't say Nehru was bulldozing. I would say he was the tallest leader available within the Constituent Assembly. And everybody has accepted him to be the Prime Minister. And that tradition runs even today. See, Nehru runs a cabinet and everybody accepted, or those who dissented would be in what I would say a numerical minority, because they believe Nehru genuinely wanted to do something good for the nation. They would shut down their intellect because they believed Nehru possessed a greater intellect. Now, this was honesty. Now, people did not oppose Nehru because they wanted to oppose Nehru, but they felt Nehru was genuine and a patriot. Now, we today can have a difference of opinion with Nehru, and we should have. But we must also understand he was one of the tallest leaders of those times, which, if you concede this and you respect Nehru, you earned the right to critique Nehru. And that would be for Patel, that would be for Gandhi, that would be for Ambedkar.
Even Savarkar.
Anybody, any historical figure, Savarkar or Nehru or Patel, if you learn to respect them, you have a right to critique them. Without respecting them, we are too small mortals to even talk about them. So I have been very careful that wherever I have critiqued, I have only pointed out that the criticism is not mine, it is contemporaneous voices of criticism or alternative ideas. And I have said that these ideas are good. In fact, the whole book ends with an epilogue by Professor Jazinder Bajaj, where he has summarized the entire thing in the way only he could have done, that this constitution has served us brilliantly for the last 75 years in several spheres. But it has also had serious lacuna in several areas. So it's a Jonas-faced document. It serves us well in certain ways, like it has done on political unity. See, you have Mamta going out and BJP coming in Bengal, you have DMK going out and another party TVK coming in Tamil Nadu. This seamless understanding of transition of power is impossible but for the constitution, which I credit it the greatest success, that democracy has flourished. But and the second point that I will also add is the 6% growth that we have had almost for 65 years consistently. Look at it, which nation can have 6% growth for its population? We have transformed, in our lives we have seen extraordinary transformation. But there are several deficiencies, as you rightly pointed out, secularism, whether there is minority rights, whether we have over killed ourselves by protecting the minority, whether the constitution has to have a fairer judiciary, robust judiciary, whether the idea of justice that we thought about, equality that we professed, but we said we don't want equality, we want equity. So we need to rephrase ourselves, reorganize ourselves, probably sometimes on labeling, sometimes on content. We need to look at it afresh.
Excellent, sir. It was very nice talking to you, and this book is a must read, I would say, because this is my interest, but I will always say that a lot of insights in this book, and it is a must read. So once again I say that please do go for it and give your comments. Thanks once again.
Thank you, sir.